frantic teacher came running into the library to just screaming at all the students to be aware of what was going on. There was 2 students with guns. I was actually in the library. I can remember that day because it was the Tuesday after our junior prom. Junior prom was previous Saturday night, and the day before on Monday night I had stayed up late talking to a friend of mine on the phone just about random stuff, and ended up not finishing my statistics homework, so I had to go to the library to finish my homework basically. When the shooting started, I can remember just this feeling of intense, almost just being scared and unknown essentially. And so the gunman came up like a back entrance or back exit, came down the hallway, and as they were shooting up and down the hallway, a frantic teacher came running into the library to just screaming at all the students to be aware of what was going on. There was 2 students with guns, and to everybody get underneath the library tables. So I at the time I was with 4 friends of mine in the library. When the shooting started, they came into the library just screaming obscenities and basically saying, this is for all the BS you put us through the past 4 years. And they wanted people who were wearing white hats to stand up, because they were associating white hats with jocks basically, which if you think about it, the library is the most logical place for them to go to kill jocks, right? And so I was actually wearing a green Quicksilver hat that day, and I stuffed it between my legs as I was crouched underneath the library table. I was shot 3 times, twice in the head and once in the foot. Basically what had happened is that my friend Mackay was shot first, and he was shot in the knees, and so I was to his right, and I leaned over to put pressure on his knee, and when I did that, my head came above the library table just like an inch or 2. And this is a story that they had told me actually, is that when my head came above that library table is when I was shot. Because of the gunshot that went through the left hemisphere of my brain, I was totally paralyzed on my right side, and it basically impacted my ability to see clearly, and read, and write, walk and talk. Basically went through the language center of my brain. So I rolled over onto my back and began to push myself with my left leg that still worked and still functioned. And the nearest exit just happened to be that 2nd floor window. So I'm on my back, basically crawling or pushing myself with my left leg, weaving my way between strewn about tables and chairs and other dead bodies basically. And it took me, from the time that I was shot to the point that I actually got to the window, was a 3-hour period. So I just sat there for a second, resting, regaining my strength, and eventually I was able to build up enough strength to basically push myself, my back, up against the wall there, and flip over. And the window had already been broken out, so I remember sweeping away just excess pieces of jagged glass and hearing like this voice shouting at me from across the parking lot. It was actually one of the SWAT team members yelling at me to stay there and that they were going to come get me. As soon as they got there, I could hear them arrive beneath the window, but I couldn't see them as they approached. I just started to crawl out the window and ultimately basically just flopped onto the top of the armored car. So the paramedics, and eventually when I got to the triage center, I was assigned to a team of paramedics that took me to St. Anthony's Central Hospital. So they took me into surgery, and I was in surgery for about 3 hours. So I actually moved from the intensive care at St. Anthony's Hospital to Craig Rehabilitation Hospital within 1 week. So I was there from April 27th to the first week in July as an inpatient. And then from July until Thanksgiving, of that same year as an outpatient. When school started back up, I would go to school in the morning and then rehab in the afternoon. So because this event was just such a dramatic event and such widely publicized, there was a lot of people who came to offer their support. I received letters and cards and gifts from people all over the nation and around the world, and then there was a lot of celebrities that came to visit. I remember Shania Twain coming, and Bo Derek and Aerosmith. So the atmosphere when school reopened, when Columbine reopened its doors, there was just, I would say, an increased awareness of everything that had gone on, and almost a desire from the students and teachers' perspective to get back to normal as quickly as possible, whatever your definition of normal is. Weren't quite sure how people would respond, not only in the school but around the nation, of how are we coping, how are we getting better. I'd always had a goal growing up of graduating valedictorian. I had straight A's through my junior year, and certainly this was not going to stop me from achieving my goals. So I took a couple classes in the morning, and then I would go on to therapy in the afternoon. And just because I was able to, I was ahead in credits, I was able to just graduate on time, as well as maintaining that goal of graduating valedictorian. I think a lot of people ask us about how do you overcome this tragedy, things like that. And more so, I try and think about it as a learning experience rather than focusing on the negative what had happened. Being able to live some of the life lessons or learn from some of the life lessons was really a positive thing in terms of saying, okay, we're not going to let this be a negative event. The word Columbine is not to be used as an equivalent for negative occurrences or bad things that happen. It should be used as a word of hope and encouragement and courage and strength. Chose to go on to college, ended up graduating magna cum laude from Colorado State University with a business finance degree. Now I run an office as a managing director of the Northwestern Mutual. If this never would have happened, it basically led to the life that I live now, because I may not have gone on to Colorado State University, and if that would have happened, I wouldn't have met my wife. So we've been married now for almost 5 years, and we just had our first child about 2 months ago. And so just like things happen for a reason, I truly believe that, and just think that a lot of other better life occurrences have happened because of this.